Ah, yes, the Major League Baseball trade deadline, one of my favorite times of the year when your team makes that final move to help get you to the promised land, or your team sells and you hate absolutely everything. In this video, I give one player for each team that they should trade for or trade to another team. Let's get to it. For the LA Angels, I think they should trade Shohei OHTANI. Let's get this started hot, and I think they need to make the smart move and bring back value for the future. The Angels are fading, and Mike Trout is out for a while, along with other injuries to the team. OHTANI will be the most expensive rental of all time, according to BaseballTradeValues.com, and for good reason. He hits, he pitches, both extremely well. He will surely bring back a very good package for the future. Will Artie Moreno go through with it, though? For the Houston Astros, I think they should trade for Eduardo Rodriguez. They've had injuries to Luis Garcia and Jose Urquidy in the rotation. Christian Javier has not been good lately. Eduardo Rodriguez would be a great piece of the rotation down the stretch, and a rotation of Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Erod, and Hunter Brown for the postseason would be great, considering his postseason experience. He has an opt-out after this year, so he could end up being just a rental, but I could see the Astros being okay with whatever decision he makes. For the Oakland A's, I think they should trade Brent Rooker. Look, we all know the story with the Oakland A's. They absolutely stink. They need to bring in value to this organization, and I think they should strike while the iron is hot with Brent Rooker. He hasn't had much of a track record in the past, and he's having a good season, so get some prospects for him while you can. For the Toronto Blue Jays, I think they should trade for Brent Rooker. The left-handed hitting for the Blue Jays is only 21st in WRC+ and only 23rd in batting average. Brandon Belt only has a .467 OPS against lefties, while Brent Rooker has been hitting lefties really well this year. For the Atlanta Braves, I think they should trade for Michael Lorenzen. The Braves are an awesome team this year, but they've had some injuries in the rotation to Max Fried and Kyle Wright. I think Lorenzen would bring some good depth for this Braves team down the stretch, and they could use him in the postseason as a reliever. For the Milwaukee Brewers, I think they should trade for Lane Thomas. The Brewers rank dead last in right field offense this year, and they're only 28th against left-handed pitching. Lane Thomas is having a very good year this year for the Nationals, and he's hitting .375 against lefties this year. I think it'll be a good fit for him in Milwaukee. For the St. Louis Cardinals, I think they should trade Brendan Donovan. It is crazy what has happened to the Cardinals this year, but it is what it is. The Cardinals should look towards 2024. They have a good offense this year, but one guy that could bring back a lot of value is Brendan Donovan. He's a very productive player. He can play multiple positions. His salary is low, and he's not a free agent until 2029. That's a recipe for bringing in a lot of good pieces for the team next year. The Cardinals also have Tommy Edman and Nolan Gorman, so Donovan can be used to acquire cost-controlled pitching to help them for their team next season, which they desperately need. For the Chicago Cubs, I think they should trade Mark Leiter Jr. I'll get to another couple players here in a little bit, but I think the Cubs should go ahead and trade Mark Leiter Jr. Relievers are a dime a dozen, and he's a 32-year-old reliever, not getting any younger, and he has good value because he's having a good season and he has a lot of contract control. The bullpen market is always hot, so I think the Cubs should take advantage of this while they can. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, I think they should trade for Jack Flaherty. The Diamondbacks have finally broken out this year, but I think they need another pitcher in that rotation to go along with Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. The Diamondbacks have a very good infield defense this year, ranking 6th in outs above average. Jack Flaherty gets a lot of ground balls. I think he would be a great fit in this rotation. For the LA Dodgers, I think they should trade for Lucas Giolito. The Dodgers have had a lot of injuries in this rotation, but I think Lucas Giolito can fill in quite nicely. The Dodgers rank 5th in outfield outs above average, and Lucas Giolito ranks 7th in fly ball percentage. I think he would be a great fit for the Dodgers and give them some good depth down the stretch, as well as another arm in the postseason. For the San Francisco Giants, I think they should trade for Marcus Stroman. We've seen the Giants and the Cubs come together for a deadline deal before for Chris Bryant. Now let's do it again for Marcus Stroman. The Giants have had some injuries in this rotation this year, and I think they need some depth in that rotation, and Stroman would bring a lot of it. The Giants have good infield defense this year, ranking 4th in outs above average, and Marcus Stroman gets a lot of ground balls. I think this would be a great fit. For the Cleveland Guardians, I think they should trade for Connor Joe. The Guardians aren't doing well against left-handed pitching this year, only ranking 27th, and they only rank 28th in right field offense. Will Brennan doesn't hit lefties well, and Connor Joe does, hitting .281 with an on-base of .385 and slugging .517. For the Seattle Mariners, I think they should trade for Brendan Donovan. I mentioned Brendan Donovan earlier when talking about the Cardinals, and I think the Mariners and the Cardinals would be perfect trade partners in this scenario. The Mariners really need a bat. They're only 15th in offense, and they only rank 24th in batting average, 24th in on-base percentage, and 23rd in slugging. They also have excess starting pitcher to offer with guys like Bryce Miller and Brian Wu. That would be absolutely perfect for the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Mariners would get a bat that they really need. For the Miami Marlins, I think they should trade for Jeimer Candelario. The Marlins also need a bat as they only rank 19th in offense. Gene Segura has been a pretty big bust this year and has underperformed greatly. I think Jeimer Candelario would be a really nice bat for the Marlins, while Gene Segura can go into more of a backup role. For the New York Mets, I think they should trade David Robertson. The 2023 Mets might go down as the most disappointing team in history, considering they have the highest payroll in history. The Mets are fading, and if they can't turn this around, they need to sell. And the guy that has a lot of value is David Robertson. The bullpen market is always strong at the deadline. I think you should trade him and get back some value for the team next year. I would also look into trading Max Scherzer. After a rocky start to the year and the suspension from the sticky stuff, he's gotten it together, posting a 3.48 FIP and a 2.96 xFIP in June, and a good start against the Dodgers on July 16th. Trading Scherzer won't be easy, though, due to his massive salary, so the Mets would most likely have to eat some of his contract to receive a good enough return in prospects. The teams I could see kicking the tires would be teams in contention and with payroll flexibility, like the Giants, Rangers, Diamondbacks, and Astros. For the Washington Nationals, I think they should trade Kyle Finnegan. Like I said, the bullpen market is always hot at the deadline, and the highest valued reliever on the Nationals, other than Hunter Harvey, is Kyle Finnegan, considering he's having a really good year, and he has 2 more years of control until he's a free agent. For the Baltimore Orioles, I have them trading for KEYNAN Middleton. I know this one might be a bit underwhelming for Orioles fans, but hear me out. The Orioles have taken the long road back to success, and I don't see them jumping the gun by giving up a ton of prospects for a starting pitcher. They could use a starter, but I think they beef up the bullpen instead of getting into any bidding wars. The middle relief could use a boost to help out Cano and Batista at the back end, considering in the 5th and the 6th innings, they have an ERA near 5, as well as a FIP and an xFIP at 4.76 and 5.13. For the San Diego Padres, I think they should trade Blake Snell. The Padres have been a huge disappointment this year, and if they keep falling more out of the wild card race, I think it's worthwhile to trade upcoming free agent Blake Snell. The starting pitching market is thin, and he's having a fantastic year. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, I think they should trade Rich Hill. Rich Hill has played for 12 different teams in his career, and I think a 13th team is on the horizon. The Pirates are fading, and they're pretty much out of it, so they might as well trade Rich Hill in a market that is pretty thin on starting pitching this year. Rich Hill can give a boost for some rotation depth down the stretch. For the Philadelphia Phillies, I think they should trade for Scott Barlow. I think the Phillies need some depth in that bullpen, considering they've had injuries to Jose Alvarado and San Anthony Dominguez. The rotation is looking pretty solid, but if they can add another piece to the bullpen, I think that'll go a long way down the stretch. And also, Scott Barlow has another year of control, so the Phillies will have him for next year too. For the Texas Rangers, I think they should trade for Jordan Montgomery. The Rangers have been awesome this year, but losing Jacob deGrom was not awesome and a blow to the rotation. But luckily, guys like Nathan Eovaldi, John Gray, and Dane Dunning have stepped up this year. Lately, though, the starting pitching has been struggling, and they could use some depth down the stretch. Jordan Montgomery would give the Rangers another formidable option down the stretch, as well as another arm in the postseason. For the Tampa Bay Rays, I think they should trade for Shohei OHTANI. The Rays are struggling lately, and the Orioles are closing in on the division lead. The Rays could use a spark, and boy, oh boy, do I have one for you, Shohei OHTANI. The Rays have the prospects to get a deal done, and they're motivated to win a World Series because they're looking to get a new stadium soon, and this will help bring the fans and interest to the team. Winning a World Series would go a long way for the long-term future of the organization. There's no chance the Rays will sign OHTANI, but if there was ever a time for the Rays to make a rental to go for it all, this is it. This would simply break the baseball universe. For the Cincinnati Reds, I think they should trade for Paul Blackburn. Not the flashiest of trades for the Reds, who have become a fun team this year, but they really could use some starting pitching depth. Someone like Dylan Cease would be great because he's under control and can be atop the rotation, or even a rental like Lucas Giolito or Lance Lynn would help them down the stretch, but I feel like they'll want to hang on to prospects, so they'll go the cheaper route instead and go after Paul Blackburn. He's having a decent year for the A's this year, who absolutely stink, and he'll give them some good innings at the back of the rotation. For the Boston Red Sox, I have them trading for Lance Lynn. Right now, the Red Sox are on the fence, but I'm going to go with them being buyers as of right now and go after Lance Lynn, considering they've had a lot of injuries to the rotation. Brian Bayo and James Paxton have been great, minus James Paxton's really bad start against the Cubs at the time of this recording, but Chris Sale, Garrett Whitlock, and Tanner Houck are currently on the IL, and they really need some depth in that rotation. Lance Lynn shouldn't cost much, and with Hyde Bloom wanting to hang on to prospects, I could see them going after someone very cheap like Lance Lynn. He's turned it around recently, and his xFIP and Sierra are much lower than his ERA, and his StatCast numbers show his expected home runs allowed at Fenway would be a lot lower. If the Red Sox do fall out of it, I think they should trade James Paxton due to the thin starting pitching market, and he's shown he's finally healthy. For the Colorado Rockies, I think they should trade Justin Lawrence. Not a good season for the Rockies, but Justin Lawrence is having a decent season in the Rockies bullpen. Like I've said a few times, the bullpen market is always hot at the deadline. Trade Justin Lawrence and bring back some value for the future. For the Kansas City Royals, I think they should trade Carlos Hernandez. Another bad team with a good bullpen arm. Carlos Hernandez will give some help for a team needing bullpen arms, and he's under control. Salvador Perez has been in the news as being a possible trade candidate, but his contract is very underwater. I don't see the Royals being able to part with that contract. For the Detroit Tigers, I think they should trade Jose Cisnero. I talked about Eduardo Rodriguez earlier, but I also think the Tigers should trade Jose Cisnero, another bullpen arm on a bad team that could be of some use to another team looking for bullpen arms down the stretch. For the Minnesota Twins, I think they should trade for David Robertson. Earlier, I talked about the Mets and how they should trade David Robertson, and I think the Twins would be a great fit. The Twins' bullpen isn't bad this year, ranking 16th overall in Fangraph WAR, but a lot of that is because of how good the back end of the bullpen has been because of Yohan Duran and Griffin Jax. But I think adding Robertson would help stretch the bullpen just a little bit more and give them another arm in the later innings. For the Chicago White Sox, I think they should trade Joe Kelly. I've already mentioned quite a few White Sox players on this list, but the last guy I need to mention is Joe Kelly. He's a solid reliever this year, and he'll be a great addition for many teams' bullpens that are in contention. And last but not least, I think the New York Yankees should trade for Cody Bellinger. The Yankees' offense has been horrible this year, only ranking 21st overall, but since Aaron Judge went on the IL, the Yankees' offense only ranks 27th. And in left field this year, the Yankees only rank 28th. Enter Cody Bellinger. He is having an awesome bounce-back year with the Chicago Cubs. At the time of this recording, through 60 games, he's hitting .305 with a .362 on base, a .531 slugging, 12 homers, 35 RBIs, and 11 stolen bases. That left-handed bat would go perfectly in Yankee Stadium, and with Sean Casey, the mayor, running the offense now, Cody Bellinger would be a great fit. So those are my trades for each team. Tell me what you think down below in the comments. Tell me your trades that you would do for each team. But that's all I have for right now. If you can, hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll talk to you next time.